Great. Good evening and welcome to the organizational and regular meeting of the Fallbrook Unified Union Elementary School District Governing Board. It is now 5:06 and I call our meeting to order. We will start with the flag salute. Dr. Husing, would you
Please
lead
stand.
us?
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Where's that? They moved it.
Oh.
They set up
Awesome.
the alarm.
Oh, sorry. Perfect. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mrs. Martin, would you like to take us forward into the swearing in of our new board members?
Absolutely. Thank you. First, welcome to all of you as new board members. Would you like to stand out here? Because I believe they were going to take pictures. I'm looking as I say that. So I'm going to stand up here in front and the three of you will do the oath at the same time.
I promise no close up. Oh, you're so kind.
Listen, if anyone doesn't want to close up.
Okay. Are you ready? Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. I, Diane Senna, do solemnly swear. That I will support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of California. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance. To the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely. Without any mental reservation. Or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully. Discharge the duties. Upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. At this point, we are going to adjourn into closed session and we'll be back shortly. Thank you. We have returned from closed session. We are reconvening at 6:07 p.m. There was no reportable action taken in closed session. So that gets us to approving the minutes of two meetings, our November 7th regular meeting and the November 18th special board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Do we have any questions or comments? All right, let us take a vote then. Dr. McRae?
Aye.
Mrs. McBride?
Aye.
Ms. McBride? Mr. Favela?
Aye.
And I'm totally blanking on their name. Oh, yes, Ms. Sabal. right?
Aye.
Thank you, and I vote aye as well. Thank you. We've got 3 new board members and we're excited they're here, but. All right, in that case, the motion passes, the minutes are approved. And that's for the November 7th meeting. Now the November 18th meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 18th special board meeting?
I'll motion.
Thank you. And I have a second. Great. Questions? Okay, all right, we'll start here.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I vote aye as well. And the minutes are approved. Thank you so very much. Before we move to our organizational meeting, I'd like to just take a moment to say this is our annual meeting. So this is the meeting at which we welcome newly elected board members and we elect officers. And it's been such an honor and a privilege to serve as president of the board. I'm so proud of all that's been accomplished in the last 2 years. We have just an extraordinary leadership team in the district, site administrators, teachers, staff, and parents. This powerfully effective team has provided and worked on new programs and resources, and our students have really thrived academically, socially, and emotionally. It's been an extraordinary 2-year period. I'd like to personally welcome the new members of our board. Dr. Stacy McRae, Ms. Mary McBride, and Ms. Sabal. So, give them a hand. I look forward to serving with you. And with that, we get to the fun stuff, the organizational meeting. The first is for the nomination of a governing board president. Let me tell you just a little bit about the process for that. Anyone on the board can nominate someone to serve, and someone can also self-nominate. It's not a motion, so you don't need a second. And then there may be more than one individual nominated. When the nominations are closed, go down and take votes, and the majority candidate then becomes that new officer. So with that, we have let me open nominations for board president.
Well, I nominate Dr. McRae.
What? Any other nominations? Great. So now we can vote. We will start with Ms. Sabal,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Ms. McBride,
Aye.
Dr. McRae, you vote for
Aye.
yourself, and I vote as well. It's consensus. Congratulations. Oh, you actually get the whole thing. Welcome. And so now you can then open the nominations for vice president.
I would like to nominate Ms. Mary McBride for vice president.
I'd like to nominate myself.
Any other nominations? Okay. And you can call for a vote.
I call for a vote.
You work your way.
Ms. Sabal.
We have 2 individuals who've been nominated, Mr. Favela and Ms. McBride.
Okay, I am Ms. McBride.
I vote for Mr. Foyle.
I vote for myself. I am Ms. McBride.
And I would vote for Mr. Favela.
Thank you. Thank you.
One more position, clerk. You're president.
Oh, right in there.
Yeah, you
Oh.
take over now. Pass the gavel. You get the fun stuff. But
That's
it's good
okay.
we're
That's
sitting
okay.
next to each other. So if you need anything as you go
I
through
know
the
what the fun
agenda.
stuff is.
Yes,
So I'm going to open the nomination for clerk.
I would like to nominate Ms. Sabal.
I respectfully decline.
Clerk's easy.
No.
You, the president.
Oh, so I need to take another.
You need to find someone to volunteer or nominate someone to be clerk.
I nominate Ms. London.
I respectfully decline, but thank you.
I'll nominate myself.
Yes, thank you.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Favela for clerk.
Aye.
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 Aye. Congratulations. You might want to have share notes. So every year, this meeting, we take a look. And it shifts to different. So this is being posted on the website, so the public can have a chance to look at it. But now we're going to ask for a motion to approve the draft schedule that is presented on the second.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve the draft schedule as presented.
I'll second.
And I will call for the vote. Ms. Law,
Aye.
Ms. Favela,
Aye.
Ms. McBride. Aye. Ms. London,
Aye.
and I will be aye as well.
Great, that's approved.
So this our governing draft is approved.
Okay, so now. You have a clip now, so I can pass along the cards to Mr. One card that's coming up. One for each management salary. These are all important. There's one. We know the topic. You just say what the topic is. And then it's to be the person who's going to speak.
So this one.
So that will be, that one we can do for last. This one, these are the ones we can see. Okay.
All right. Thank you all for coming tonight. We're at our open session, our hearing session. And so I will call your name up and you have 2 or 3 minutes.
3.
3 minutes. You have 3 minutes to speak. So please, you want to stay on schedule. Because we have a few folks speaking. So the first one I'll call up is Todd Madison.
Do I speak in this or do I
Yes,
just?
please.
Okay.
Microphone, please.
All right, thank you very much. There's the timer. I just want to say congratulations. I think it's awesome. You know, I don't know if I've met some of you. I'm a founding member of a group called the Parent Association. We were pretty heavily involved in getting the schools to reopen a couple of years ago. I've actually carried a sign outside on the corner in front of your district here. And I think that for people to step up and take an interest in making our schools better and make them run the way parents want them to run for their kids now is probably the most challenging thing that there is out there when it comes to elections. You know, there's a lot of different offices that were up for election last in a couple of weeks ago. And I can tell you that some of them are offices you've never heard of, but school board is right in front of you. School board takes care of your kids. School board makes the district run the way that you want it to. And it's really great that you guys have stepped up to do that. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Julie Reeder.
Although I don't know most of you, maybe Mr. Favela more than the rest. I wanted also to congratulate you and thank you for running for school board. And I understand that it's a huge commitment and a lot of time goes to it and effort. And so I wanted to thank you for that. I'm the publisher of the Village News, and I know it's been a bit uncomfortable the last few years. maybe even back the last 10 years, back to the Allen lawsuit. And I'm looking forward to the change with the new board and with new leadership. I'm hoping that it'll be more, even the administration will be more responsive to us. And I would just encourage you, there's been some things that have happened with the old board members that I feel like were not right. And sorry, I don't even know why I'm nervous. But I feel like the administration, mostly probably with Dr. Singh, tried to bully us when we were covering things. And I think that one of the board members was bullied while being accused of being bullied. And so I just want to encourage you, if there's things happening that you think aren't right, come and talk to us. You know, just talk to us, because we'll always call the school district and get their point of view too. And if, you know, for instance, if your things aren't getting on the agenda, we need to know that so that we can tell people that and try and make it right, because you represent a whole voting block of people in your area. And the whole reason that they went to areas was so that you could represent those voters. And if your items are not getting on the agenda for whatever reason, then that's not right. We need to put light on things like that. So I welcome you, and I'm looking forward to a new day with all of you and all the new administration. Thank you.
So next we have Tracy Daniel.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Daniel, and I would like to congratulate the new board members tonight. Unfortunately, I'm sad to see that Karen Lieber's not sitting on the board tonight. She's been the only voice of reason the past couple of years. And she only lost by a handful of votes. However, Joanne Lopez and Susan Lieb significantly lost in their races, which speaks volumes to our community's dissatisfaction with their service, as well as the settlement agreement they voted in favor for with Dr. Candace Sine. After reviewing Ms. Sine's settlement agreement that was executed on November 7th, 2022, I have several questions for the board. Can the board explain why the district funds are being used to pay the settlement rather than filing an insurance claim? The only conclusion I can reach as to why this is not being turned over to insurance is that Ms. Sine's accusations and the settlement are not credible. Can the board provide a breakdown of Ms. Sine's attorney's fees that total $33,425? That seems very excessive for a few months of litigation. So I would like to have that breakdown and invoice from the attorneys. Can the board explain why Cindy Martin is appointed as interim superintendent rather than reaching out to the county office to locate a retired superintendent to fill the vacancy? Given Ms. Martin's history with the district as well as allegiance to Ms. Sine, it seems to me that this creates a conflict of interest, and the district should err on the side of caution and not have her fill the vacancy. Also, as a certified public accountant, I would like to remind the board members, both former and current, that they are charged with being responsible stewards of public money, and that a gross mismanagement or gross waste of funds could result in a personal liability, shall any taxpayer or voter choose to file a suit. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And next we have Leticia Stamos.
Thank you. Those of you that know me know that one of my flaws is telling the truth and speaking my mind and speaking truth to power. And sometimes that puts me in a precarious position in that I'm speaking for myself, but I feel that I'm speaking for a lot of people in this community. And while I'm looking forward to seeing how the new board members serve this community, I feel that we have a great challenge before us. And unfortunately, that challenge was before us before as well. We've been challenged for a number of years. And what I really want to talk about and suggest to the board tonight is in regards to the selection of the new superintendent. There are lots of people in this community that have felt alienated from their schools, like the schools do not belong to us. And while I may not be in the same mindset as some of the folks that are here and feel that the schools have not been part of this community, I think that speaks to just the kind of division that we have had, that nobody has really felt like the school district, the school community has belonged to us as a community. So, so I'm hoping that in the process of selecting a new superintendent, that the board will consider a suggestion. Those of you that are aware of how the high school district selected their superintendent here a few years ago, they had a search team and they had a committee of people from Fallbrook. They had parents, they had business people, I think they even had students, they had people representing nonprofits, they had active community members, and it was a lengthy process. And I think that played a significant role in people in the community in Fallbrook feeling like this was their high school. And whether that superintendent works out or doesn't work out, at least we're part of the process. So as an active member, I'm a retired teacher also, active member of Fallbrook for nearly 30 years. This is a suggestion that I would put before you that you would consider as you move forward in the process, because obviously I am not aware of what the group has decided that they're going to do, what process they're going to follow in selecting the new superintendent. So I would just like to put that on the table for you all to discuss if you haven't already, that this is a way to hopefully open up more avenues for participation. Thank you.
Next, we have Frank Golbeck.
Good evening, trustees, staff, community members. I'm Frank Golbeck. I have 3 young children who are in the district after exploring many options for education here in Fallbrook, including homeschool, parochial school, online school. We are stoked to be at May Ellis, where my 3 young children learn 2 languages, where the staff is so enthusiastic and so excited to have this opportunity to teach people skills and the academic rigor that they need to succeed. And I see my children come home every day just excited, because when I've gone and observed at the school, the teachers are so involved, the administration is so involved, including Dr. Gonzalez, who's sitting here tonight. And that man works more than I worked when I was in the Navy. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity. So as you guys look at a superintendent, I hope that you find a superintendent who really understands the unique value that May Ellis adds to this community and puts it as a priority to support that school and continue its success. So thank you.
Next, we have Jennifer Montgomery.
Thank you and good evening. First, welcome to the new trustees. It's a big commitment for any citizen to run for public office. So thank you for taking that step and for joining our FUESD community. I know there's a ton to learn, so I hope you'll have a chance to come visit our campuses and get to know our wonderful schools. My name is Jennifer Montgomery. My daughters are in 5th and 2nd grade at May Ellis Elementary. I've been an active member of our school PTSA for 6 years, including 2 years as president. I'm the parent representative on our campus's comprehensive safe school plan, and I was a part of the community committee that developed our district's portrait of an 8th grader. I recognize a lot of families and parents here tonight. We are the PTSA volunteers. We are the watchdogs. We are the school site council members. The ELAC leaders were the migrant ed families. We listen in on board meetings via Zoom when we are sitting at soccer practice. We are the parents who during the pandemic provided our district feedback about what our family and student needs were. We filled out every survey and we were on every Zoom call, and we peppered the district with every conceivable worry and question. I have always felt listened to by the district. To our new trustees, your campaign was a voice for parents, which is great because we're used to having our voices heard. As you can see, there's no shortage of ways to be involved as a parent and to have your voice heard both on campus and via district programs. That's never been a problem. I wish more people in this community knew how wonderful our schools are. Ask any non-FUESD affiliated Fallbrookian what they know of our district, and they'll tell you something less than kind that a realtor told them 20 years ago, or they'll grumble about the former superintendent's salary. And that's a shame because the story of FUESD is the families, teachers, and administrators in and out of this room who have made it such a special place to educate our kids. Our town needs to know that story. Our teachers are brilliant, caring, and endlessly hardworking. Our principals and assistant principals are worth their weight in gold. We see how in the past decade, our schools have been able to add intervention teachers, full-time librarians, counselors, school psychologists, and bilingual community liaisons. Luminary arts classes might be every kid's favorite day of school. Your greatest responsibility as trustees of this district faces you shortly, the hiring of a new superintendent. Selecting Cindy Martin as interim superintendent, I think, was a great decision, as she's a deft leader and as a district parent herself, has an intimate understanding of our schools. So if you want to hear the parents' voices, here we are. We're asking that you recognize FUESD is a dynamic and vibrant school district doing amazing things in our town. We want a superintendent that recognizes all the good that has been happening in FUESD and keeps us moving in that positive direction. We want a superintendent who will continue the equitable policies that protect our most vulnerable students. We are not looking for upheaval. Please get to know us before making any major changes and keep our voices in mind when selecting a new superintendent. Thank you.
We have one more card here, but there's no name, but the topic is settlement review. I think that's what it says. Must be you then, yeah. Come on up. If you filled one out, it must be you.
Before I speak, I want to pass these on. Welcome to the new members. Happy holidays. Before you move on to new business, there's a certain amount of old business to take care of. The first page I'm going to address in my book and yours is the Ed Code regulation for calling a special session. I challenge this board to call a special session to review the procedure, Brown Act regulations, the Ed Code regulations, the standing board policies that were violated. I talked to Rick Shea at the County Office of Education. He said that as a citizen, I can call for a special session. It only takes 24 hours. And it needs to be addressed before Candace gets $350,000 by the end of this year. She's already gotten a big chunk. Time is of the essence. So I put together a little history for those of you who are new. Those of you who've been here know this already. Apparently, Candy was talking in 1 year, John Pearl or his predecessor in the other years. So I'm going to go through this very quickly. I highlighted it in here. You can look at it later. This is your homework assignment. The first thing, there was an article, it's in chronological order. There's an article in the Village News. A lot of this is from the Village News. The second page is a letter that Mr. Favela wrote, which got me interested in all of this in the first place, because I hadn't paid attention. I've been retired. I'm having a good time. The next thing is a copy of Candace Singh's contract. On the board website, it has several errors that, oh, it had to be done this way, it had to be done that way. On page 6, there's one that talks about termination. If this person decides to leave, yes, it can be revised. Her contract can be revised if it's agreed and signed by all parties. That's on the district website, and that's not true. It can be changed. There's another thing here that says if the superintendent leaves voluntarily, she gets paid up to that date, no more. It was not a mandated settlement. That's what it says on the board website. That's not true. It's in the contract. Next one, there's a letter I wrote to Ms. Martin, and I also sent it to the board. I want to know how much was paid totally for all the litigation initiated by Singh. I got a letter from Pearl said, oh, it's so laborious to get all that information. No, it's not. Everything's itemized. You click on the computer. It goes through. There are numerous other articles here. At the end, there's her settlement. And I charged this board to have a special session to go over this, and it needs to be reviewed. I talked to the county office. You can be required to do that, and you need to do that. And all the information is here. Do your homework, save the district, save the students $400,000 worth of services. It's called abuse of funds. All the documentation. Right?
All right, thank you all. That's it for our hearing session until we get to item 4.1.
I will ask for reports from the board. I will start with Ms. Sabal.
If you have anything to say about what you've been doing, the briefing.
I went to the California School Board conference and learned some interesting stuff. And I also saw the Fallbrook Christmas Parade. That was wonderful. And that's about all I have right now.
I had a chance to attend a leadership ceremony at Mayellis. It was last Friday. It was a great event. As student-led events, as you will see, many of our the events that we hold at different schools are led by students for the Leader in Me program. And it was just great to be out there again. I mean, that's really what I've done so far. Really proud of my daughter. She was recognized as Student of the Month, but congratulations to all the other students as well. It's a great time to recognize the students as we go into our Christmas break or winter break. Right.
And I also got to attend the conference. I attended all 3 days of it. It was a lot of information. So I'm still taking it in and learning all the other things that we needed to get informed on. And I feel like I'm in a gigantic learning curve and doing the best to just take it all in and learn everything that I can learn to be efficient for this position. Thank you very much.
And I'll make it 3. I also attended the conference. We heard some very good speakers. We learned some really good information, and I look forward to serving all of you on this journey. And if you don't know, I'm a middle school teacher, so I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I start my day with students 5 days a week.
And I've had a quiet couple of weeks, so nothing to report today. So now, report from the superintendent.
So I will ask for the report from the interim superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. McCray. First, this is the first opportunity I've had to speak since being appointed at a special board meeting. And I would like to thank the board for doing so. It's an honor, and I look forward to working collaboratively with the new board and selecting the new superintendent for this district. Just to be clear, I've been with this district for 18 years. Prior to that, I spent 6 years at Fallbrook High School District. So while I don't live here in this community, I feel like it is my community, and my allegiance is to the district and making it the best district that it is. It is to no person. I am a parent. I have my student, my son who started kindergarten and is now at 7th grade at Potter, and my older daughters as well. And there's a reason that I choose to bring them to school here, and it's because of the great programs we have, the teachers, the classified staff. This really is a community. So having said all that, it's an honor to serve in this role. And I still will be serving as the business services person as well. So thank you all. It has been busy. Last week, I did meet with our principals individually to ask how I can best support them at their schools during this transition in leadership. And we had some great conversations. I also met briefly individually with our new board members just to get to know them and introduce them to our district. And while those meetings were great, the real highlight of my week was attending the leadership rally at May Ellis. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for the invitation and for taking me to some classrooms to visit. And what a quick and effective reminder of the why, the WHY, why we're here, why we continue to do what needs to be done through challenging and difficult times. To see a fully student-led assembly by the 4th graders at May Ellis it was amazing. I love to see the joy and the confidence and the respect throughout the school. And not only did I see it, but I felt it by the students, the parents, and the staff. And so again, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, and the May Ellis family for letting me be a small part of your day. I can't wait to take our new board members to visit our schools, and I want them to be as excited and proud of our programs as I am. Thank you.
Okay, so we're on item 4, human resources, and we do have a request to speak by Todd Madison.
Hi, and thanks again for having me. I wasn't actually expecting to speak on this, but I was looking through the board agenda preparing to come up and congratulate everyone, and I noticed this item. I'm also the director of research for a website called Transparent California. You may have heard of it. We put together public employee compensation data for about 2 million employees of school districts every single year. If you go to transparentcalifornia.com, you can look up anybody. So I have kind of an interest in the compensation things. One of the things I noticed in this item is that it doesn't seem to give a total cost for this. Unless I missed it, I'm not seeing where in there it tells what the total cost of this raise will be. It might be completely justified, I don't know. It does look like the district, I've looked at your budget documents, and it does look like the district has money. So I'm not really too concerned about that. But the interim doesn't also give an MYP. There's no multi-year projection in it that shows the impact of this in the future. We know that next year the state is looking at a $25 billion shortfall in taxes. At that point, undoubtedly, school funding will be cut. I mean, that's the way things go. So I guess the real question that I would have here is, have you evaluated what the impact of this will be on the future of Fallbrook Unified or Fallbrook Union's ability to stay solvent, stay out of qualified status and make sure that that's actually happening. So, thank you.
So we will move to the action approval of management salary schedules. It is recommended the governing board approve the following salary and benefit increases for unrepresented employees, certificated and classified management, confidential, excluding assistant superintendents, associate superintendents, and superintendents. Effective July 1st, 2022, the salary schedules, including longevity, master's, doctorate, and beyond 84 units stipend, shall be increased by 7%. In addition, a 1% one-time off-schedule payment shall be provided to unrepresented employees employed by the district as of this date is approved by the governing board. The 1% payment shall be calculated based upon the updated 2022, 2023 salary schedules and include master's, doctorate, and beyond 84 unit stipends. The 1% payment shall be prorated for unrepresented employees hired after October 1st, 2022. Effective January 1st, 2023, the district's contribution for health benefits is $750.27 for employees only, $1,421.12 for employees with one enrolled dependent, and $1,975.90 for employee and family on a monthly basis. The district values all employees and has a longstanding practice of providing the same salary and benefits increases to its unrepresented employees as it provides for its bargaining unit employees. I will call for a motion to approve the management salary schedule.
So moved.
I'll second.
Anyone have any questions or comments? If there are none, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Sabal,
Excuse me.
I'll call for the vote. Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Aye. And I will. I as well. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Action approval amendment to contract of employment. It is recommended the governing board approve the amendment to Cynthia Martin's current contract of employment and contract of employment for interim superintendent. I'll call for a motion.
For motion to approve. Contract. I mean. Sorry,
You make a motion?
make a motion.
I'll second.
Questions or comments?
Again, just thanks Cindy for being able to step up for us in this moment. Really, as a parent in the district, very pleased to have her in this role.
I would like to say something as well. I've worked with a lot of business and financial officers over the years in my career, 30-year career. And I've been so impressed with Mrs. Martin. She's absolutely one of the best I've ever worked with. And the fact that she's willing to take on this additional role is something that I think we should be extremely grateful for. She's been with our district for 18 years. She knows our staff, our students, our policies, our history. She's a parent of student, and I just am so thrilled, Ms. Martin, that you're willing to do this for us. So thank you. And then you can call for a vote.
I will call for a vote. Ms. Sabal,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Hi.
Ms. McBride,
Aye.
Ms. London,
Aye.
and I as well.
Motion carries. And look down, let's see, what do we have? It's just an information item. Let's say we have an information item on the.
All right, so we have an item, public hearing 2021-22 annual and 5-year developer fees report. We have an action item resolution number 08-2223 annual and 5-year developer fees report. It is recommended the governing board approve resolution number 08-2023 to adopt the annual and 5-year developer fees report.
I so move.
Second.
Questions, comments? If there are none, I'll call for a vote. Ms. Sabal,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mr. Bride,
Aye.
Ms. Lundin,
Aye.
and I as well. Next action item is 2022-2023 first interim report. It is recommended the governing board approve the 2022-2023 first interim report. This is the first of 2 annual reports that cover the financial and budgetary status of the district for the period ending October 31, 2022, as required by Education Code 42130. The district is submitting a positive certification for the first interim report, which means that based upon current projections, the district will be able to meet its financial obligations for the current fiscal year and subsequent fiscal years. Mrs. Cynthia Martin, interim superintendent, will provide a brief presentation on the 2022-2023 first interim report.
Thank you very much. This is exactly what's going to be. I'll be standing up there, but. Good evening, board members. Again, welcome. I am thankful and again honored to serve in this capacity as you work and to find the next superintendent. That is going to be one of the most important duties that you have. So as a parent, as an employee, and as somebody who loves this community, I too think that it's truly important that you find the right person. Having said that, I would like to make a brief presentation on our first interim report. Let's see. There we go. So with the budget timeline, where you come in as new trustees is in the middle of the year. Of course, it's the end of the calendar year, but the middle of the fiscal year. And where we are is where you see the December 22nd, our first interim report. And it is really an update of the revenues and expenses since we adopted the budget back at the end of June. So I just wanted you to know where we are in the budget cycle. What is the first interim report? That is such an odd sounding title, if you ask me, but that's the state for you. School districts are required to report their financial status to their governing board and then to the county office and then eventually to the California Department of Education. The first of these 2 financial reports is the first interim. And again, I had mentioned the first interim reflects actual expenses through October 31st. So it's a snapshot in time of as of October 31st, as far as what we have spent, but it's an update to our revenues and our expenditures from the adopted budget. And there's some pretty significant changes that have happened this year from when we adopted the budget back in June. So in overall, as it was Dr. McRae read in the motion, FUESD has a positive certification. That's one of the most important pieces there, meaning that we can meet our financial obligations in the current year and the 2 subsequent fiscal years. I'll go over for you, but I told you there were some pretty significant changes in the budget since we've adopted the budget. And part of the reason for that, there usually are changes, not this big usually, but we're required to prepare the LCAP along with the budget and start bringing it to you at the beginning of June. And it's made and based on the assumptions that are known at that time by the state. They estimate COLA, they estimate other sources of funds that'll be available. So our budgets are built on estimates back in June. We bring it, it's adopted at our second board meeting in June. And then the state comes around and adopts their budget, and they've made changes, or they've made adjustments as the politics happen up in Sacramento. And districts are then required to adjust their budget, and that's what we're doing during this time. So one of the biggest changes was to the LCFF funding with the COLA. Originally, it was a little over 6% that the estimates were for COLA, and that is truly the calculated COLA. But there was what they're calling a COLA augmentation, and it brings the total COLA up to cost of living adjustment up to 12.84%, which is significant funding for school districts, significant. So the dollar amount, the 3.7 million, that was just from that one line item change, the additional revenue that it created for our district. We didn't know that was going to happen back in June. And the other part of that is we budget conservatively. So even if we had heard that might happen or that it was coming, I wouldn't recommend incorporating into our budget until we knew that that's what it was going to be. You can have plans for if it comes, what you can do with it, but I wouldn't recommend building it in. You can see in the federal revenue, the 1.7 million, and those are really carryover funds. School districts received a significant amount of COVID, I call it COVID funds, over the past few years. And so that increase there is what we finally, as we close the books, know what our carryover amount is, and we include it in this year's budget. The other state revenue, a big portion of that was the expanded learning opportunities program. Again, it was a program that was new last year. And so we had a significant amount of carryover money, but we also didn't know what our allocation was going to be this year. So this reflects what it actually is. And we had some funds, almost $300,000 of carryover for the UPK. They called it the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Planning and Implementation Grant. This district had been offering the TK, as we call it, for a number of years prior to it becoming a great idea that the state came up with. So we had been doing it for a long time. And so these funds really, we didn't really have to do a lot of planning or implementing other than expanding on and making sure that our program was in compliance with what the staffing, the child to adult ratio was. And then finally, the other local revenue, we had received a grant for $100,000 from the County Office of Education and our Medi-Cal billing carryover as we bring that in. So a lot of this had to do with when we close the books and know what our actual carryover amounts are for those programs. Significant expenditure changes. You see decreases in the certificated and classified salaries and benefits. And let me just say right now, there were no positions that were cut. What this is that after we filled our positions, the amount that we had budgeted for salaries and benefits was less than we originally anticipated, primarily because of retirements. You know, when we start building our budget, we're building it way in advance, and then people retire over summer usually. And so once we actually know who those people are, we incorporate and say who's actually filling the positions. The other part of it that I would say is, unfortunately, the staffing shortages. So we had a lot of positions that were in the budget, but if they couldn't be filled or couldn't be filled right away, it's money that's sitting there budgeted for the whole year. But you know, the actual person, either some may not even been hired. We were competing with other districts, you know, for substitutes and intervention teachers and social workers. The books and supplies, the $5.1 million increase is primarily, I told you that the expanded learning money came in so high. And so this is really, it says books and supplies, it's kind of the holding account that will be working with Mrs. Perez as the director in that department. And we spread the budget out to where it belongs. But for this purpose, you see it's been budgeted there so that our revenues match our expenditures. And then again, in services, there was an $85,000 increase in its carryover funds. This district has a practice of allowing our sites and our departments to carry over their money. And the significance of that is many districts don't. At the end of the year, they swipe it up and at the district office level, and then maybe reallocate it or use it for other purposes. That's certainly an allowable way to budget. We don't think that's the smartest thing to do, because the last thing that we need is a site buying boxes and boxes of paper clips and things they don't need just because they don't want to give the money back. So we allow the schools to carry it over. The other thing is that they can really build upon a plan. So it's not enough to just have something one year and do it. You've got to see it over time. So our principals will work with our director of curriculum instruction as well to maybe these things they can't afford to do all in 1 year, but they take a little bit of money each year, and after 2 or 3 years, they have enough to do something that, you know, is important and that the school site council says is important and recommends. So you see carryover there a lot, but again, that's because we're giving it back to the sites and departments that had it left over last year. I show you this because that big report, if you wanted to match the numbers exactly that I put, you can see the my eyes are so bad, 3760083 under LCFF sources. If you go back, it's right there. And so this is just to tie that big report that doesn't make a lot of sense to what I'm actually telling you here and indicating here. And I tried to do that to familiarize everybody with this report. This is the state required format that this report is, that I'm showing you a snapshot here. The general fund balance reserves for a district our size, based on our ADA, we're required to have a 3% reserve, and we do. And it's an interesting but fine line, because I think we all saw that when the pandemic happened, having more than the 3% was necessary to reopen schools and while we were closed, do the things that we needed to. But if you have too much, you can't have too much. You can't have, because we should be spending the money on the kiddos that are here with us now. It's not a savings account. So we are in compliance with that. 3% is indicated there where it says the reserve for economic uncertainties, and that's in our general fund. And this is where I wanted to point out the cost of the salary settlements have been built into the budget to show that even after these costs are pulled out. So I believe we had some questions even on what these different things cost. So at the bottom where it says, not bottom, but the bottom of the circle where it says reserved for salary settlement unrepresented employees, what you just approved, sorry, I gotta look at my screen here, 417,301. And that's the cost this year. It is an ongoing cost because what was proposed was an ongoing cost to the salary schedule. So in order to be able to do that, I have to show the County Office of Ed, who does approve it, that we can afford it this year and the next 2 years. And they have quite a lengthy AB 1200 document that we have to do, and that was, excuse me, available for display in our HR department. But I wanted you to know that that money has been already accounted for. We're just in kind of a strange time right now because this is as of October 31st. So technically, as of October 31st, we had not settled negotiations with our unions. Now, this report is being prepared now, and we know that from that time till now, during November, we did reach agreement with both the certificated and classified bargaining units. So I wanted to show it as reserved there. This here is special reserve fund. It's a fund 17. And this is where you'll hear this term from me a lot as we work through the budget cycles and reports. I do my best, as does the rest of the business services team, to what I call maximize revenues. And in doing so, what this district has been successful at doing is identifying already the needs or the plan or what are the priorities of the board. Not waiting for a certain category of funds to come and then figuring out how we're going to spend it, which is unfortunately the way that not all, but you know, a lot of other districts do. They get a pot of money, then they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with it. this board has had a practice that has been identifying the needs. When some of the COVID money came out, there was a requirement to have a learning recovery plan. And what this district committed to was making it a 3-year learning recovery plan, because as I mentioned, 1 year is just not enough. So we could have done the minimum that the state said, which is show us a plan for a year, but we didn't. We took the money and all the different sources. And if it means that I'm trying to move things around, figure out, call the state, ask the auditors, how can we best spend it? I try and free up as much money for our district so that while a lot of this money has strings attached, I'll make sure that it's spent in compliance. And I will check with our auditors. I will check with, like I said, the state, get them to send me an email confirming that. But an example would be, there were funds available to for in-person instruction. And we were already open. So my question to the state was, can I take that money that we're required to spend in certain ways, and can I use it for what we're already doing to open? And basically the money that we had set aside to open now is unrestricted general fund money that the board gets to prioritize how it's spent. So it's not necessarily always doing more, but it's doing smarter and taking and enhancing. And for those reasons, over a number of years, that is why we're able to, and you can see there, the money that's set aside and how it's designated to be able to afford these things. So we still have money set aside for the learning recovery plan. This is actually set aside so that we will continue to have smaller class sizes into next year. So when, you know, other districts may have done it for a year, or they're trying to figure out maybe the next year, we knew this 2 years ago, and that was the plan. And if it's a priority to the board and that comes from the community and the process that works, then this is where it's my responsibility to give as many resources to meet the board's priorities. So this is showing here again, some of this we had set aside money for shade structure / outdoor learning spaces, and that's in the process. You can see the site and department carryover amounts. And part of the agreements that we had with our bargaining units was for a 1% off schedule payment. So that's a one-time cost. So you can see the cost, the $603,000 as being set aside there as well. In addition to all of those things, we do have an additional $2.1 million that is beyond the 3% that I told you that we are required as a district our size to have. So we have the 3% in our general fund, and we have 2.19 here that's set aside for the reserve for economic uncertainty. Again, at the board's discretion on how that can be spent or saved or used for future purposes. So I want to give you a summary so you get the big takeaways here. This is a snapshot. That's on my old Kodak or Polaroid camera. I'm sorry. This is a snapshot of our finances as of October 31st. And it's strictly where are we in comparison to where we were budgeted. It's not how are we spending or what programs are we doing or not doing. It's that we had the budget and the budget was set, and are we on track or are we not? It's kind of like looking at your checking account or savings account before you go shopping and wanting to make sure what I think I have is really what I have. And if it's not, there's a problem. And if there's more, there could also be a problem, but let me do a little more research and see if I've got more money available. So that's kind of what this is. When we get into the budget development, that's where we'll spend time on what are the priorities, class sizes, certain programs, certain things we're doing that will be included or not included in the budget. And that's where more of the detail comes from. But this is strictly a reporting of the finances overall. We have a positive certification, as I mentioned, and combined, remember I said we had the 3% in the general fund and then the additional money that was in Fund 17. It gives us a total of 5.81% as a reserve. Next steps. So what's coming next in the budget cycle and for the board and the community to be aware? The governor will release his budget proposal in January. He does that every year. And there are several different conferences and things that we attend to understand how that relates for school districts, and then specifically what it means for our school district. We're going to begin at the same time in January, developing the budget for the following school year. So taking what the governor's proposal is, taking our existing programs and things that we've committed to, finding out if there are other priorities of the board, and putting that all together that we'll be working through during next spring. I will be doing the second interim report. So I told you this was the first of two. I will be preparing and working on presenting the second interim report in March of 2023. And that's going to be a snapshot of our finances from July 1 until January 31st. So it takes what we got here, and then we're going to pick up a few more months and see if there were any changes there. So we remain financially healthy, strong, in great condition. I think being responsible yet valuing our employees. It's important with staffing shortages that we hate to lose good people because we are not competitive or not staying competitive with the salary. So I appreciate that as an investment in our people. It takes people, we're a people business, so it takes people to teach the kids. And that's what we're here about. So I just wanted to try and take that report that you would not have, you wouldn't have gleaned this information from, and try and make it understandable for you as far as what it is that you want to be looking at and matching it to where the different parts of the report, so you can actually see that for yourself. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. I think this is something that will take time to develop a better understanding as we go through, but each time I try and reflect to remember when we did that and make it a little bit more familiar as well. So are there any questions by any of the board members?
I have a question.
Mhm.
So, the 7%, what is the total amount?
Let me go back to. Yes, this one here. So I would need to add up those three numbers, but I think it's the 4.221 million is the total cost for all employees. If you were talking about what was just for what was approved tonight, it's the $417,000. The line, the 2.7 million, that is for our negotiations with our teachers bargaining unit. And then the almost $1.1 million is the cost of what it would be for our classified negotiations with our classified. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll call for a vote. Mr. Ball,
Aye.
Mr. Favela,
Aye.
Mr. McBride.
Aye.
Aye. And I am Ross as well. Thank you. I'm on the hot seat, you folks. All right, so we have another action, school plan for student achievement, SPSA 2022-2023. It is recommended the governing board approve the 2022-2023 school plan for student achievement for each school site: Fallbrook STEM Academy, Fallbrook Homeschool Academy, La Paloma Elementary School, Live Oak Elementary School, May Ellis Elementary School, Mary Fay Pendleton, Potter Junior High School, San Onofre School, and William H. Fraser Elementary. Schools must annually submit their school plan for student achievement, SPSA, to the governing board for review and approval. The SPSA drives school goals. Proposed spending and expenditures should align with school student achievement goals. Prior to submitting to the governing board, each school site council must develop, review, and approve the school's SPSA. I'll ask for a motion.
Motion to approve?
Here, second. I'll second. Thank you. Questions or comment? I'll call for the vote. Ms. Sabal?
Aye.
Mr. Favela?
Aye.
Ms. McBride? Aye. Ms. London? Aye. And I am I as well. Motion carries. Thank you. Next action item, resolution number 09-2023, California State Preschool Program. It is recommended the governing board approve resolution number 09-2223, California State Preschool Program. This resolution is an annual requirement of the California Department of Education, CDE, California State Preschool Program, CSPP contract, which authorizes designated district staff to sign contract documents for the governing board for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. CSPP includes, but is not limited to, part day age and developmentally appropriate programs designed to facilitate the transition to kindergarten for 3- and 4-year-old children in educational development, health services, social services, nutritional services, parent education, and parent participation, evaluation, and staff development, EC 8235A. I'll call for a motion.
I so move.
You a second.
Second?
Questions, comments? I'll call for the vote. Ms. Sabal?
Aye.
Mr. Favela?
Aye.
Ms. McBride?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Again, I am I as well. Motion carries. Thank you. So we're on item number 8, consent agenda. It is recommended the governing board approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I'll call for the vote. Ms. Sabal?
Aye.
Mr. Favela?
Aye.
Ms. McBride?
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. London.
Aye.
And I am I as well. Motion carries. All right, so I'll ask if there's any discussion regarding future agenda items for consideration. Okay,
Time.
meeting adjourned at 7:16.